Hi, humanity. I just poured myself a drink and we are going to talk about house hacking today. Cheers. Let's get into house hacking, and how I got started in my real estate investment career was always step number one, house hack, because every time you pay rent and every time you pay mortgage, it's money that is going bye-bye. Hi, humanity. My name is Chloe. I started this HI with Chloe, which is about human intelligence, elevating our mind, body, and soul, because I think that it's important to level up in our lives and realize that living a full balanced life is more important than doing 100-hour work weeks in the corporate world. Ugh, horrible. Okay. So what is house hacking? House hacking is when you have a multifamily unit where you live in one of them as your primary residence, but you use the other units as a rental income so that you can cover your expenses and your mortgage payments. So basically and essentially, you live for free while building up a rental portfolio. What are some of the benefits? A, you are lowering your taxable income because there are extra write-offs, and two, you are learning how to be a landlord, and you get to play landlord and understand the entire process from screening tenants to understanding the kind of needs that they have, maintaining a property. So this is a really good first step in terms of getting ready for your real estate journey. Number three, you lower your monthly expenses because you are no longer paying rent, which is usually a big chunk of your budget. And number four, if you follow my lead correctly, this will also help you generate positive income that will be a surplus to whatever it is that you do at your normal day job. So who can do this? The thing is that this is something that can be done whether you're rich or poor, college student, newlywed, middle-aged, it does not matter. Anybody can really do this. A college student who can do this, for example, might take out a 6-bedroom apartment lease arbitrage and then rent out the other rooms to college students, and then they get to live for free. But somebody who's a little bit older and a little bit more established might be able to take out a mortgage and buy a duplex. And if that's the case, this is a great way for like newlyweds to get their feet started in their real estate journey, but also obviously living for free while building equity. There are a few different kind of properties. You can buy a single family home, and if it has a finished basement, you can rent that out, or you could live there depending on your financial needs. If you have less money, you might want to live there yourself and then rent out the house upstairs, which will definitely not only cover the actual mortgage expenses, but it will also provide you with surplus income so that you can maybe live off of that as well. The second thing is you could buy a duplex where you live in one unit and rent out the other unit. You can also buy a multifamily where there's 4 or more units in there, and you live in one of them while you rent out the other apartments, and that will be covering most of the heavy expenses in terms of operating this type of investment. And last but not least, and this is the point of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about lease arbitrage and how you can still do house hacking with lease arbitrage. And that means if you have a 2+ bedroom apartment, you can live in 1 bedroom and rent out the other bedroom. So how do you do financing? I think financing has to be its own completely separate video because it's a lot of information. So number one, let's start off with financing. You can either do lease arbitrage, which I already kind of covered, or you can do regular standard financing. Here's something that is very interesting to know. If you do an FHA loan or a Fannie, if you live there for the first 1 to 2 years, because it's an owner-occupied investment, you're able to avoid capital gains tax. That's why a lot of people will live in 1 per year and then keep rolling it over, because the point is that in 3-4 years, you have 3 or 4 rental properties. And if they are multifamily, you have multiple streams of income and you have a nice little rental portfolio on your hands. And if you got started in college, this is just absolutely perfect. Great. So now we have a property, and let's talk about the kind of tenants. So you can have a long-term tenant where you go through the standard procedure. You do the screening, the credit, the background check, and you make sure that they are eligible. You put them into the unit, they furnish the unit themselves, and you have a long-term tenant. It's very stable, it's very steady, and it most likely will cover your mortgage, although I don't know how much will be left over. The second kind of tenant that you can get is an STR, which means short-term rental. I'm going to use the blanket term Airbnb, but there's many different venues that you can go through. A short-term rental needs a furnished apartment, all of the utilities included. So if you have a TV, you need to make sure that Wi-Fi and Hulu, whatever it is set up. and they just come in, unpack their suitcase, and start living. So the basic kitchen utensils and all the basic bedding and things and towels that they might find in a hotel is exactly what you need to provide in your short-term rental. This video is dedicated to lease arbitrage or purchasing a property, but by utilizing Airbnb for house hacking. So let's talk a little bit about Airbnb. Let me first start and preface by saying this is a disclaimer that I am not liable for anything anyone does that happens to not be legal in their current state. It is on you to check your local legality and check with your local state government to make sure that it is okay to have Airbnb guests in your apartment. I know that a lot of large cities such as New York, LA, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, even Austin has very specific laws about what is allowed and what is not allowed. So please look at what is allowed and what's not allowed. And if you're purchasing a property, I would strongly advise to make sure you don't buy a property that has an HOA, because they can also have their own set of laws, which you have to abide by. Now, if you want to break the law, I mean, there are walkarounds, but I'm not here to, advertise that. So let's kind of get back to, now that you checked the legal laws and you made sure that your house is zoned properly and that you're able to have an Airbnb guest, let's get started. So how are you going to design your apartment? So there's two main ways that you can do it. One of them is you pick, let's say, the nicest apartment that you like for yourself. So let's say it's a duplex, you pick the one that you love the most. Or if it's a 2-bedroom, you pick the master suite that has an in-suite bathroom, and then that's yours. So you could either pick the best apartment for yourself, and then the second room, which obviously you're going to design amazingly well, and it's going to be advertised for well, you can then put that one on Airbnb. This is up to you. You get to decide what you want to do. If you need more financing and more income, then I would suggest living in the basement, rent out the house, live in the back of the house, rent out the front of the house, or live in the smaller bedroom and rent out the larger bedroom. When I personally got started in my journey, I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and I lived in the bedroom that had the bathroom inside the bedroom. I had that one, and I put a smart lock on the door. So essentially I had my own studio apartment, and then the other bedroom had a bathroom as well, which I actually never used. So when they came into the house, they had a bedroom, a bathroom, and then between the 2 rooms was a kitchen, a living room, and dining room. And so it really kind of felt like there was like 2 studio apartments within one apartment, and that layout was just perfect. So you got to get creative in terms of when you're going to buy a house or when you're looking to do a lease arbitrage. When you are searching for the apartments, you have to look at the layouts a lot, because don't forget, if you're sharing the space, the common space such as the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, and the bathroom have to all be built for co-living and co-working and co-sharing. The second thing in deciding, other than the layout, is also I would highly advise you to go on eardna.com and to put in the address and the number of units of the property that you're looking at purchasing or renting. And then it will literally tell you all of the numbers and the ranges in terms of what are people looking for in that neighborhood. Are they renting 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, or 3 bedrooms? Are people looking for private rooms or whole houses? It'll tell you the range of prices per night. And just so you know, it's pretty conservative. So the way I cross-reference with AirDNA is I actually go onto my phone and I go to the Airbnb website, and then I search as if I were a tenant searching in that neighborhood, and I look at what the prices are. And many times there's a little bit of discrepancy, although it is working off of data. It does take the median, and it does do a lot of like data science and correlation. So you could trust it, but at the end of the day, I also like to just double check by doing the research myself. Now that you decide on what type of house you want to buy, and now that you decide whether you're going to finance or lease arbitrage, now you decided on the layout of the property and how you're going to price it, it's time to design your second unit. So let's talk a little bit about interior design for Airbnb. I have another video about the 3 tips that most people forget about. I will link that, I think, up here, so you can click on that video next and watch it. But the way to design an Airbnb is very specific. I want you to think about a hotel design. How do hotels design the space? What kind of spaces are necessary? So each room needs to have the bed, the closet, and there needs to be a desk, because potentially they're working from the room. So think about the local hotels and what they are offering, right? So you have to have that in the actual bedroom. Secondly, I would be very cognizant of the location that you are in. So I would not do a Nordic modern design in a Airbnb in Louisiana, right? I would suggest that if your Airbnb is, let's say, in Nashville, maybe putting a guitar on the wall, using local flair is very honoring to the actual local community, and tourists love it when they arrive. Because it helps them just feel like they're really having an incredible experience. This is what's so much fun about interior design, is that most things that you would not put in a normal home are things that you can definitely put into an Airbnb, because it's all about the kitschy, glamorous little details that normally you would not design with. So if you see a bright blue couch that looks amazing, I had somebody book one of my Airbnbs because of my bright blue couch. And they said that their kid just loved the color. And I was like, great, it was on sale, because nobody wants to buy a bright blue couch for their own house. So it works out really well. You can also buy these really cool tiles that look like graffiti writing on them. Again, this is something you probably wouldn't put in your primary residence, but this is a great thing for Airbnb because it looks colorful and fun. So here again, I would go into Airbnb and scroll at the super hosts and look at their pictures and how they're doing the interior design, see who gets booked the most, and then kind of understand the kind of style that is very popular in your local neighborhood. Then you can go on Pinterest and you can start finding different ideas. I love you going to Home Goods. They always have like really cute, kitschy things. I love having themes in your room, themes in your house. And that could be a whole nother video because I could talk about that for hours. But do make sure that your co-living spaces is designed kind of like a WeWork. So imagine your living room, dining room, kitchen area kind of being like a local cafe where people come with their laptops, they sit down with their books, they have some coffee, and they sit and relax. So think of it like that. So people can sit there with their laptops, make it and design it kind of like a WeWork. Make sure that the bathrooms and the kitchen has designated spots for each unit if this is a shared unit. So in the bathroom, I would have 3 baskets, and I would have for room 1, room 2, and room 3. If you want to get really cute, you can come up with names per room. If you are in France, you can do one room is Sancerre, one is Sauvignon Blanc, and one's like Chardonnay, and one's Champagne. You can label the rooms in different ways, and then you can put the designated baskets for each room so people can put their toiletries in there. The same thing goes for the kitchen. There's some house rules and common rules that they need to understand and adhere to, but you can also put different plastic containers into the fridge. I have in the past bought these containers from Amazon where you can label them and you put them in the fridge. So each person has, this is what their stuff is, and there's like no fighting. And actually with Airbnb, there's less fighting than roommates, because roommates feel like this is their home. And then they just decide to like leave their socks everywhere and be messy as hell. But actual Airbnb guests want a 5-star rating. So they are good in return. They clean, they take care of the place. I'm not saying there's no Airbnb guests that have not had any horror stories. I'm sure there are plenty, but in general, if you do good enough screening and you make sure that they have reviews and make sure that they have good reviews and they have good ratings, then you are most likely going to be fine. Just a quick tip. This is, I don't know why I'm adding this, but make sure if somebody is local and they book last minute, I wouldn't accept that kind of booking because usually they are trouble, just from statistics. Okay, what do I want to talk about next? Okay, so now that you have the apartment or bedroom or basement furnished and ready to go, hire a professional photographer. Please do yourself a favor and do not try to do this yourself. Undercutting $200-300 is not going to make a big difference in your entire budget in the scheme of your lifetime. So really don't make that a thing. Hire a professional. Airbnb themselves will send out photographers. So if they send it out, they don't charge you up front, which is if you're worried about financing, they will just take it out of the first booking, which is better for you. So I highly recommend hiring a professional photographer so that your space looks as amazing as it can, so you can get to a superhost status and that you are getting the numbers that you need. Now, quickly, let's talk about numbers. I'm not going to talk about this too much, but on average, obviously you're going on your DNA to take a look at it, but on average, a bedroom, a private room goes for like 100 a night. So let's say you're doing 100 a night times 26 nights, because we're going to be conservative, that is 2,600. So, you know, if you had 2 bedrooms, that's times 2, that's 5,200. And if you have a 3-bedroom apartment that you leased out for 3,500 a month, minus 5,200 is 1,700. and then let's say minus Spectrum, which is 60, minus Con Ed, which is probably 100, minus that was okay. So then you're at 1540. So not only do you get to live for free, but you're making 1540 a month surplus. All right, so we're pretty much almost done. When you are listing the listing on Airbnb, here's the thing. If it is a 2-3 bedroom apartment listed as a private room, and you can list duplicate listings, so you can have 2 listings, 1 for each room that's in the house, you live on the 3rd. Unless you have a duplex with a back door and a front door where the house is only connected by a door that is locked and the guests do not share any common space with you, that's the only time I say, fine, it's okay to list it as a whole apartment, or like you have the whole place to yourself. Otherwise, I would list it as a private room, and then in the description, the first line, just to reiterate, because people are still going to ask you questions, even though they'll review all your listing, they'll still ask you a million questions. Just reiterate and say that this is a whole house, you have the whole space to yourself, everything is yours, you have the washing machine, the dryer, the kitchen, everything is yours. It just is listed like that because I live in one of them, and that is something that is important for primary market lease arbitrage, because in primary markets, you're not allowed to Airbnb. It's not legal, but it is legal if you live in one of the rooms. So if you want to have that as a private room, this way you're able to list it. You just need to make sure that the guests actually know down below that they actually get the whole space to themselves. Now, again, please don't use this as legal advice. This is in no way, if you follow this without checking out your own legal laws in your local state, like I am not liable for any of this. So don't ever come back at me and say that. You have to take on checking the legalities on yourself. This is your job, your due diligence before purchasing or leasing. Okay. Now, there's Airbnb, Vrbo, there's furnished rentals. There are many, many different sites. There are traveling nurses, there's corporate travel. So you have a lot of different ways to find a short-term rental to come in, because Airbnb could be nightly, but if you want, you can set your style to longer term stays, so people can stay as long as they want. So now this is your first step to your real estate journey. This is how you're going to live for free. And this is not only how you're going to live for free, but this is how you build up equity. You learn how to be a landlord, you live for free. And on top of it all, you're probably making some extra moolah. So this is a great way to really get started. And if you have any questions, please put it down below. As you can see, I'm new to YouTube, so I'm not so professional at this, but I really am looking forward to sharing as much information with you guys as I can. So if there's a topic you want to know about, please put that down below. Also, if you subscribe and hit the bell, every time I post a video, you'll get notified. Since I'm still new, I haven't had a schedule yet, so it's not like I'm posting every Tuesday at 5 p.m. I'm going to try to get regimented this way. You guys can start looking out for the videos and we can start having that relationship with each other. But until then, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation. Have a good day and good luck.